warning to our viewers. What you are about to watch is a true story. The following program contains content that some viewers may find disturbing. Viewer discretion is strongly advised.
The medical examiner explained to the jury step by step how Sasha Samsudean died, how she was strangled, the killer either using his hands or his forearms.
She's dead as the result of asphyxiation, and a particular type of asphyxiation, manual strangulation.
The medical examiner said he had never seen key parts of the neck fractured so severely. He also showed pictures, but the screen was placed so only jurors could see it. But the family could hear, and it was clearly very painful. Next on the stand, a string of Orlando police officers who found the body of Sasha Samsudean in her downtown Orlando apartment. Officers said it started as a missing persons report. Friends and family worried Sasha had disappeared off social media. When police entered Sasha's apartment, they found her dead in her bedroom, wrapped up in a comforter.
October 17th, 2015, 1:46 in the morning, downtown Orlando, Florida. A security camera captures a young woman stumbling through the lobby doors after a night out with friends. She's intoxicated, disoriented, struggling to find her way home. Walking just a few feet behind her, the building's security guard, the man hired to keep her safe. For the next 38 minutes, these cameras will document something absolutely chilling. A predator stalking his prey through the hallways of a luxury apartment building. A woman just trying to get home. A security guard who should be helping her, but instead he's hunting her. By sunrise, 27-year-old Sasha Samsudean will be dead inside her own locked apartment. Strangled, sexually assaulted, her body wrapped in her own comforter and doused in bleach. And the only person with access to every locked door, every secure floor, every corner of this building was the man paid to protect her. This is the story of the night trust became terror, sanctuary became a slaughterhouse, and a security guard who turned the building he was paid to protect into his personal hunting ground. Before we continue, please be aware that what you're about to hear involves the real murder of a real person. This case contains details of sexual violence, stalking, and brutal homicide that some viewers may find deeply disturbing. Viewer discretion is once again strongly advised. Welcome to the Shadow Files crime series. Tonight we venture into a nightmare so evil, it defies comprehension. Take a moment to hit subscribe, drop a like, and please let us know where you're watching from. And now, we begin.
Hey guys, I'm Sasha from 407apartments.com, and I'm also this year's AAGO Education Chair. I'd like to invite all of you guys out to Lisa Palooza, an event that's being held on September 27th at the Plaza Live on Bumby.
To understand what happened that October night, you need to understand the world Sasha Samsudean lived in. By 2015, downtown Orlando had transformed itself. What was once a sleepy collection of office buildings had exploded into one of Florida's most vibrant urban districts. Glass towers reflected the Florida sun. Rooftop bars hummed with energy. Young professionals flocked to newly built luxury condominiums that promised the perfect blend of city living and complete security. Uptown Place Condominiums was the crown jewel of this transformation, a modern high-rise in the heart of Orlando's entertainment district. The building offered everything a young professional could want: digital key codes for every unit, surveillance cameras throughout the property, and most importantly, 24-hour security. A guard on duty every single night. The promise was simple: you are safe here. You are protected here. October 2015 represented the height of our collective faith in technology and security systems. We believed that cameras, codes, and guards made us untouchable. We trusted that modern security could keep the monsters outside, but sometimes the monster is already inside. Sasha Samsudean was born on July 4, 1988 in New York. An Independence Day baby which seemed fitting for someone who would grow up to embody independence and determination. Her family moved to Orlando when she was young, and Central Florida sunshine shaped everything about her. She had this warmth, this infectious energy that drew people to her. Friends described her as outgoing, genuinely kind, the type of person who could walk into a room full of strangers and leave with a dozen new friends. Sasha was smart, really smart. She graduated from the University of Florida with a degree in mathematics. Her parents affectionately called her Little Ms. Math, and she wore that nickname with pride. But Sasha wasn't just about numbers and equations. She understood people. She understood what made them tick, what they needed, what they were looking for. That's what made her perfect for her job at 407apartments.com, a real estate company specializing in Orlando apartment rentals. Sasha's role was connecting people with their future homes, and she was exceptional at it. She called herself the Cupid of apartment hunting, and that's exactly what she was, matching people with the spaces where they'd build their lives. At 27 years old, Sasha had built a life she was proud of. She lived alone in a third-floor apartment at Uptown Place, her own space, her independence embodied in every carefully chosen piece of furniture and decoration. She was active on social media, constantly sharing moments with her tight circle of friends. Regular nights out in Orlando's entertainment district. Brunches, beach trips. The normal, beautiful chaos of a young woman living her best life. Her relationships were healthy and normal. She dated on and off, including a high school boyfriend named Ben who remained a close friend. More recently, she'd been seeing Joshua Cohen. They enjoyed Orlando's nightlife together, tried new restaurants, lived the life that young couples in vibrant cities live. But the most important relationship in Sasha's life was with her family. She texted her parents regularly, keeping them updated on her life, sharing little moments. Her last text exchange with her mother perfectly captured their bond. Sasha wrote, "I love you, infinity." Her mom replied, "I love you, infinity times infinity to the infinity power." It was their thing, trying to quantify something that couldn't be measured, love that went on forever. Her father, Ken Samsadine, would later speak about his daughter with tears streaming down his face, pointing to her picture and saying simply, "That is my baby. That is my baby." The pain of a father remembering everything his daughter was, everything she should have become. Because Sasha had plans. She had dreams. She was building something. Friday night, October 16, 2015, was supposed to be just another weekend night in downtown Orlando. Sasha had plans to go out with friends, blow off steam from the work week, enjoy the nightlife she loved. She had plans for Saturday, too, a baby shower for a friend. The gift was already purchased, already sitting in her car, wrapped and ready. It was supposed to be just another weekend. Sasha had no idea that Friday night would be her last. She had no idea that the building she called home, with its cameras, its digital locks, its security guard, would become the place where her life ended. She had no idea that the person paid to protect her would be the person who killed her. Friday night, October 16, 2015. Rolling into the early morning hours of Saturday, October 17th. Sasha Samsudean was out with friends at the Attic nightclub in downtown Orlando, a standard weekend routine for her. The music was loud, the drinks were flowing, and Sasha was doing what she loved, enjoying life with the people who mattered to her. Around 12:30 in the morning, Sasha's friend Anthony Roper last saw her at the bar. She told him she was heading home. They'd catch up tomorrow. Just a normal goodbye between friends who'd see each other again soon. Sasha left the Attic alone, planning to head back to her apartment at Uptown Place. What should have happened next was simple. Sasha calls an Uber, gets dropped off at her building, goes upstairs and falls asleep in her own bed. Safe, alive, ready for that baby shower in the morning, but that Uber ride never happened. Instead, Sasha ended up walking down Orange Avenue, one of Orlando's busiest streets, alone and visibly intoxicated. This is where fate intervened, or at least what seemed like fate. Julia Goff and her roommate were in an Uber when they spotted Sasha stumbling along the sidewalk by herself. It was late. She was alone, and she was clearly vulnerable. Concerned for her safety, they did what good people do. They stopped. They pulled over and convinced Sasha to get into their car. They were going to bring her home. They were going to make sure she got back safely. They thought they were saving her. At 1:46 a.m., Julia and her roommate arrived at Uptown Place Condominiums with Sasha. She was very intoxicated, having trouble walking, fumbling for her keys and her key fob. At the entrance, they encountered the overnight security guard on duty. His name was Stephen Duxbury, 33 years old. He'd been working security at Uptown Place for 5 months. Sasha couldn't immediately produce her ID or her key fob. She was too disoriented, digging through her purse, struggling to find what she needed. While this was happening, another resident arrived and used his own key to enter the building. Sasha followed him inside. The building's digital key logs would later record this entry. Julia Goff and her roommate saw the security guard at the door. They saw Sasha make it inside the building. And they left, believing they'd done a good deed, believing they'd delivered her safely home to a secure building with cameras and a guard whose entire job was to protect residents. They had no idea they'd just delivered Sasha Samsudean to her killer. 1:46 a.m. Security cameras capture Sasha entering the building, and there, visible just behind her, is Stephen Duxbury. Here's what should have happened next. A security guard sees an intoxicated resident struggling to get home. He helps her to her apartment. He makes sure she gets inside safely. He makes sure her door is locked. Then he returns to his post. That's the job. That's what you're paid to do, protect vulnerable residents and make sure they're safe. But that's not what happened. What the surveillance cameras captured over the next 38 minutes tells a completely different story. A horror story. Sasha is disoriented, intoxicated, struggling to navigate the building she calls home. The cameras capture her wandering through hallways, up and down stairwells, across different floors for 38 minutes. Lost, confused, desperately trying to find her third-floor apartment. She can barely figure out the locked doors, stumbling through the building in a vulnerable state. And the entire time, Stephen Duxbury is right behind her. The footage shows that Duxbury doesn't help Sasha to her apartment and leave. Instead, he follows her. He stalks her through the hallways of Uptown Place, up stairwells, across different floors. For 38 minutes, Stephen Duxbury hunts Sasha Samsudean through her own building. Sasha is wandering, confused, clearly disoriented, trying to find her third-floor apartment in a building she's called home but can barely navigate in her current state. She's vulnerable, she's alone, she needs help. And Duxbury is right there behind her. He uses his security access keys to follow her through locked doors that she can barely figure out how to open. He knows this building intimately. It's his job to know it. He knows every corner, every stairwell, every entrance and exit. Most importantly, he knows every single security camera blind spot. Because here's the thing about Uptown Place. The building had extensive camera coverage in common areas, lobbies, and stairwells. But the hallways near the apartment units themselves, no cameras, no coverage, no witnesses. Stephen Duxbury knew exactly where he could operate without being seen. At 2:39 a.m., the cameras capture Duxbury walking away, alone. He's finally leaving the area where Sasha was last seen. Sasha Samsudean is never seen on camera again. The resident who had let Sasha into the building earlier would later tell police that she seemed pretty drunk when he saw her. But he went to his own apartment and didn't see anything else. He had no idea what was happening just floors away. But someone else did see something. Clayton Becerra, an upstairs neighbor, was doing laundry around 2 a.m. when he saw Sasha in the hallway, and she was being followed by the security guard. This detail would become crucial later. Between 2:39 a.m. and 6 a.m., there's a dead zone. No surveillance footage of Duxbury, no witnesses, no record of where he is or what he's doing. But digital evidence tells part of the story. At 5:12 a.m., Sasha's phone, synced to her iPad, sends its last text message to her friend Ben. Around 5 a.m., someone searches on a smartphone. How to override quickset digital deadbolt lock. That's the exact type of lock on Sasha's apartment door. The same door that showed no signs of forced entry. 6 a.m. Stephen Duxbury's shift officially ends. 6:36 a.m. Security cameras capture something unusual, something that should never have happened. Duxbury, still in uniform, is carrying large white plastic garbage bags with red handles. He walks through a doorway leading to the second-floor garage where his personal car is parked. 6:38 a.m. 2 minutes later, Duxbury returns to the building without the bags. Here's what you need to understand. Garbage collection was not part of security guard duties at Uptown Place. This was not normal procedure. This was not part of his job. Guards didn't take out trash. They certainly didn't take out trash at the end of their shift while leaving the building. And those white plastic bags with red handles? They would later be matched to the same bags found inside Sasha Samsudean's apartment. Stephen Duxbury carried something out of that building at 6:36 in the morning. Something he needed to dispose of. Something he couldn't leave behind. And then he clocked out and went home. Just another night's work. Saturday morning, October 17, 2015. Anthony Roper was expecting to meet Sasha for breakfast. Standard weekend plans. But Sasha didn't show up. At first it was just unusual. Maybe she overslept. Maybe she was hungover. Roper sent texts. He called. No response. Hours passed. He kept trying. Calls went straight to voicemail. Text messages sat unread. Social media, where Sasha was always active, always posting, always responding, went completely silent. This wasn't like her. This wasn't like Sasha at all. Concern turned to alarm. Around 8 p.m. that evening, Roper and 2 other friends decided to go to Sasha's apartment at Uptown Place. When they arrived, they noticed something immediately. The baby shower gift was still sitting in her car, wrapped, ready, untouched. Sasha was supposed to have been at that shower hours ago. They went up to her 3rd-floor apartment and knocked on the door. No answer. They knocked again. Nothing. Just silence from inside. Something was very, very wrong. Between 7 and 8 p.m., Anthony Roper called the Orlando Police Department and requested a welfare check on his friend.
I need to fill out a missing persons report.
Where are you right now?
We're at her apartment at 911 North Orange Avenue. Her name is Sasha Samsudean. I last saw her at 1 in the morning.
Is this peculiar for her? Has she not done this before? Is she suicidal? Do you think she would hurt herself or others?
Absolutely not.
Officers were dispatched to Uptown Place Condominiums. When officers arrived at Sasha's apartment, they noticed something before they even opened the door. The smell. Bleach. A strong chemical cleaning solution permeating from inside the unit. There were no signs of forced entry. The door was locked. No damage to the lock, no damage to the door frame. Whoever had been inside either had a key or knew how to bypass the digital deadbolt. Officers entered the apartment. What they found would haunt them. Sasha's body was on her bed, wrapped tightly in her comforter. Prosecutors would later describe it as being rolled up like a Tootsie Roll, her entire body concealed, wrapped, hidden. When the medical examiner arrived and pulled back the covers, the full horror was revealed. Sasha's shirt and bra had been violently torn open. Her pants and underwear were missing. Immediately visible were severe bruising and marks around her neck, clear signs of strangulation. The marks told a story. Sasha had fought. She had struggled. She had tried desperately to survive. Her body had been doused in bleach. Someone had tried to destroy evidence to wash away what they'd done. In the bathroom, investigators noticed something odd, something that Prosecutor William Jay would later point out in court. The toilet seat was up. "Something I would never expect," he said, "in any apartment where only a woman lives." Fingerprints were found under the toilet seat lid. Partial shoe prints were on the floor. Medical examiner Dr. Gary Utz noted the overwhelming smell of cleaning solution throughout the apartment. But the chemical smell couldn't hide what had been done to Sasha Samsudean. Closer examination revealed the true brutality: blunt force trauma to her head. 7 separate strikes to her skull. Her larynx had been crushed. Whoever strangled her had done so with such force that they destroyed her windpipe. Abrasions on her upper and lower body were consistent with someone being forcefully restrained. Defensive wounds were evident. Sasha fought her attacker. She fought hard. DNA swabs were taken from her neck and chest. They revealed the presence of foreign DNA that didn't belong to Sasha. Investigators took inventory of what was missing: Sasha's cell phone, her keys, both gone. And here was what didn't make sense, what made this case immediately unusual. There was no forced entry. None. The door had been locked from the inside. No damage to the lock, no damage to the door frame, which meant whoever killed Sasha Samsudean either had a key to her apartment or knew how to bypass her digital lock. Orlando Police Homicide and Crime Scene Investigation Units began processing the scene. Every surface was examined, every piece of evidence photographed and cataloged. One question haunted everyone involved in the investigation. How did someone get into a locked apartment in a secure building with surveillance cameras and 24-hour security? The answer would turn out to be more disturbing than anyone imagined. Orlando police detectives began the painstaking work of interviewing everyone who had seen Sasha Samsudean that night.
You guys know her? Or?
No, we were downtown on Friday night, but as we were leaving, saw her walking by herself, and was very concerned, just because she seemed extremely intoxicated. And there was a car of men who had rolled down their window and started to talk to her. I walked up and kind of took her arm and said, like, "Do you know where you're going?" And you could tell she didn't really know what was going on.
Did bring her back up to the...
So we get to the red light at Orange and Marks, and she, as soon as the car stopped, she left out of the car and ran across the street to Uptown Place. So she's like, "This is where I live." We're like, "Oh, well then that's perfect." Like, she didn't remember enough to tell us, but she recognized it when she saw it.
Anthony Roper, who'd requested the welfare check, interviewed, gave a statement, cleared. Julia Goff and her roommate, the Good Samaritans who'd brought Sasha home, interviewed, statements taken, cleared. The mystery resident who'd let Sasha into the building was identified through the building's digital key logs. He voluntarily provided a DNA swab, not a match. Cleared. Former boyfriend Ben, who'd received Sasha's last text at 5:12 a.m. Interviewed, DNA swabbed, tested. Not a match. Cleared. Ex-boyfriend Joshua Cohen, interviewed, DNA swabbed, tested. Not a match. Cleared. The defense would later try to paint Sasha as a promiscuous heavy drinker, desperately attempting to create reasonable doubt. Defense attorney Aaron Delgado would ask Cohen in court, "Would you characterize her as sexually aggressive?" A shameful attempt to suggest rough sex gone wrong, to blame the victim for her own murder. But the evidence didn't lie. Every man Sasha had dated was DNA tested. Every single one was cleared. Orlando police were thorough. They investigated every lead, every possibility, every person who'd crossed Sasha's path that night. And then the focus shifted to the one person who had access to everything. The digital key logs, the security camera blind spots, every locked door in the building. Stephen Duxbury. On October 17th, detectives interviewed Stephen Duxbury, the security guard who'd been on duty the night Sasha was murdered. His story seemed straightforward at first. He said he'd encountered Sasha and two women at the entrance around 1:46 a.m. Sasha didn't have her ID or key fob readily available, so he couldn't let her in. Another resident arrived and entered with his key, and Sasha followed him inside. Duxbury claimed he went to check on her and last saw her fumbling with the security code outside her apartment. He insisted, repeatedly insisted, that he never entered her apartment, never went inside, never crossed that threshold. In that initial interview, Duxbury seemed cooperative. He even told detectives to check the surveillance footage. So they did. And the footage told a completely different story. The cameras showed Duxbury following Sasha for 38 minutes, not just checking on her for a moment, but stalking her through hallways, stairwells, across multiple floors, hunting her. Police brought Duxbury back in for a second interview. This time, his story started changing. Detectives asked, "Where was the first place she was when you found her?" Duxbury responded, "It was the first or second floor." The detective called him out immediately. "In your first statement, you said at her apartment." Duxbury, "I am telling the truth." The detective wasn't buying it. "You are saying that, but there are so many discrepancies in your statement that even day one didn't make sense to us." Then came the polygraph test. Duxbury agreed to take it. He failed, spectacularly. His answers about Sasha's murder came back deceptive on every single question. The red flags were multiplying. Police asked Duxbury for the shoes he'd worn that night. He provided a pair. Forensics examined them. They weren't a match for the shoe prints found at the crime scene. Detectives obtained a search warrant for Duxbury's apartment in Port Orange at 1645 Dunlawton Avenue. There, they discovered a different pair of boots. The soles matched the shoe prints in Sasha's apartment perfectly. The defense would later try to claim these belonged to his roommate, but the evidence said otherwise. Then there was Duxbury's cell phone. The data had been recently erased using a factory reset. Why would someone wipe their phone right after a murder in their building? But police recovered his phone records, and what they found was damning. On October 17th, around 5 a.m., someone using Duxbury's phone searched "How to override quickset digital deadbolt lock." That's the exact type of lock on Sasha's apartment door. This search happened during the 90-minute window where Duxbury was completely absent from all security footage. Physical evidence on Duxbury himself told another part of the story. Abrasions on his arms, including what appeared to be a bite mark. Sasha had fought. She'd bitten her attacker as she struggled for her life. Then the DNA evidence came back. Duxbury's fingerprints, provided as a requirement when he was hired as a security guard, were compared to prints found in Sasha's apartment. Match. His thumbprint was on the rim of Sasha's toilet seat. His fingerprints were under the toilet lid. His thumbprint was on her nightstand next to her bed. The man who swore he'd never entered her apartment had left his prints all over it. But the most conclusive evidence was yet to come. DNA found on Sasha's breast, a match to Stephen Duxbury. Foreign DNA from her neck and chest, a match to Stephen Duxbury. And those white plastic garbage bags with red handles that Duxbury carried out of the building at 6:36 a.m. They matched the bags found in Sasha's apartment. Every piece of evidence, the surveillance footage, the phone searches, the fingerprints, the DNA, the shoe prints, the garbage bags, every single piece pointed to one person. The security guard hired to protect residents had murdered one of them. On October 30th, 2015, Stephen Duxbury was arrested and charged with first-degree murder, attempted sexual battery with a deadly weapon, and burglary. The predator was finally in custody. November 2017. Nearly 2 years after Sasha Samsudean's murder, Stephen Duxbury's trial began at the Orange County Courthouse. Judge Lisa Munyon presided. Assistant State Attorney William Jay led the prosecution. Defense attorneys Aaron Delgado and Cheney Mason represented Duxbury. The prosecution presented 101 pieces of evidence, an overwhelming case. DNA expert Edgar Perez testified that Duxbury's DNA was definitively found on Sasha's upper body. The medical examiner detailed the brutality. Sasha strangled, her larynx crushed, 7 blows to her head, bleach used to destroy evidence. The jury watched security footage of Duxbury stalking Sasha for 38 minutes through her building. Audio recordings of Duxbury's police interviews were played, his lies exposed. When detectives asked about the trash bags he carried out, Duxbury admitted, "It does not look good." Prosecutor William Jay laid it out plainly. Defendant gets into her apartment, does these things to her, leaves her covered in bleach, wrapped in her comforter to be discovered only by her friends. The defense tried to create doubt, suggest police rushed to judgment. They attempted again to paint Sasha as a heavy drinker who enjoyed rough sex, blaming the victim. The jury saw through it.
This is the last time Stephen Duxbury will be in court before his trial begins. As now both sides are making their final preparations, the defense is also still trying to get some evidence dismissed.
You'll get your order on the motion to suppress probably on Friday.
The judge immediately addressing a motion filed by attorneys of 35-year-old Stephen Duxbury. With the trial less than a week away, the defense is asking the judge to limit key evidence in the case. It surrounds these documents filed on Monday. The defense saying analysis shows a pair of sneakers collected from Duxbury's apartment only appear to match a bloody footprint found inside the apartment of 27-year-old Sasha Samsudean. His attorney saying speculation should not be admitted as evidence, but the state says the motion is untimely and should be struck by the court, especially with the trial right around the corner. Duxbury's attorneys also hinting additional motions could be filed, to which the judge said time is running out.
All right, we'll get them filed because you need to have them heard in front of me before Monday. So I would suggest you get them filed, which means you have them tomorrow.
The defense called 0 witnesses. They had no case. Defense attorney Cheney Mason moved for acquittal. "I don't see there is any evidence there at all." Judge Munyon denied the motion. The evidence was overwhelming. After 6 days of testimony, the jury deliberated just a few hours. November 21st, 2017. The verdict, guilty of first-degree murder, guilty of attempted sexual battery with a deadly weapon, guilty of burglary with assault. Stephen Duxbury, 35 years old, showed no emotion. Before sentencing, Sasha's parents addressed the court. Tara Samsudean, a former ER nurse, explained she'd had to leave her job. She couldn't treat rape victims anymore without breaking down. "I will never have a Last Supper with my daughter again. Her father will never walk her down the aisle," Tara said. "Every wedding I attend, I know we would never have that." Then Tara addressed the defense's treatment of Sasha. "We were beat up by what happened and beat up again in this courtroom by the defense, running her through the mud." Ken Samsadine took the stand, pointed to his daughter's picture, and through tears said, "That is my baby. That is my baby." Then Ken did something remarkable. "We feel for the parents of the person who took my baby from us. I don't think they did anything wrong. I feel for them. Even in grief, grace." Stephen Duxbury remained silent. No statement, no apology, no remorse. Judge Munyon delivered the sentence. 2 life sentences without parole plus 15 years for burglary, consecutive sentences. "Have a good day, sir," the judge said with cold finality.
In the indictment. Verdict is to count 3. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty of burglary of a dwelling with an assault or battery as charged in the indictment. So say we all, dated Orlando, Orange County, Florida, on this 21st day of November, 2017, signed by the 4 persons. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to ask that you look at your badge number. I'm going to have a question for you by badge number. Juror 462, are these your true and correct verdicts? Juror 104, are these your true and correct verdicts? Juror 690, are these your true and correct verdicts? Juror 221, are these your true and correct verdicts?
Duxbury was led away to spend the rest of his life in prison. The Samsudean family filed a civil lawsuit against Uptown Place, Vital Security, and the lock manufacturer. It revealed something disturbing. Duxbury had been the subject of multiple resident complaints before Sasha's murder. In May 2015, a young female resident reported Duxbury acting sketchy after he followed her to her apartment. The company failed to act. The lawsuit stated, "Failure to monitor common area hallways with cameras created the opportunity for Duxbury to break into Samsudean's apartment." How many other women did he stalk? How many warnings were ignored? Sasha's story sparked changes, increased scrutiny of security personnel, better camera coverage requirements, more rigorous monitoring. Orlando Police Chief John Mina said, "Justice for the family and friends of Sasha Samsudean, but justice doesn't bring her back." Sasha Samsudean was 27 years old, a daughter, a friend, a mathematician, a connector of people. She loved her parents. Her final text to her mother, "I love you infinity." She had dreams, plans, a baby shower to attend that Saturday. She had a whole life ahead of her. Her father's words echo, "That is my baby." October 17th, 2015. A young woman comes home from a night out with friends, helped by good Samaritans who wanted to keep her safe. They delivered her to a building with 24-hour security, surveillance cameras, digital locks, thinking she'd be protected. Instead, they delivered her to a predator who wore a uniform and carried a badge that said security. Stephen Duxbury had one job: protect the residents of Uptown Place Condominiums. Instead, he used his access, his authority, his knowledge of every camera blind spot to hunt a vulnerable woman through the hallways of her own building. He stalked her for 38 minutes. He bypassed her digital lock. He entered her apartment. He sexually assaulted her. He strangled her. He crushed her skull. He wrapped her body in her comforter and doused her in bleach. And then he carried the evidence out in garbage bags and clocked out of his shift, erasing a life as casually as emptying the trash. Sasha Samsudean trusted the security systems that promised to keep her safe. We all do. We trust the cameras, the locks, the guards. We trust that the people hired to protect us will do their jobs. But sometimes the greatest danger doesn't come from outside. Sometimes the monster is the one holding the keys. That was someone's baby. And she deserved so much more than 38 minutes of terror in a hallway that should have been safe.